Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Funke Afolabi Brown. I am excited to be here today, and we're going to be talking about three different conditions that I tend to see people use interchangeably. So, are you sleepy? Are you tired? Or do you have fatigue? And while they may be used interchangeably sometimes, they are three completely different entities. So we're going to be diving into this today. And so if you're new to my channel, can you do me a favor and subscribe? Just hit that subscribe button. That way you will know when I create content and you will be the first to get that content. So now sleepiness, I'm going to define that first, right? Because that's definitely a term that's directly related to sleep quality or sleep quantity, right? So sleepiness really just relates to your desire and your need for sleep, right? It's the tendency to want to fall asleep or the state of being drowsy. So for instance, you just either had a big meal or it's evening, or you had a very crappy night where you didn't get enough sleep, or you've just been working overtime and now you are at a point where you find yourself nodding off. You find that your eyelids are fluttering. You might actually have what we call micro sleeps, where you just suddenly wake up and you're like, oh, wow, I fell asleep, right? You may notice that at a stoplight, or you may notice that when you're doing some work and you just notice that you're kind of completely zoned out. Sometimes that may be because you're sleepy. And usually what you would want to do is sleep. So if you take a nap, if you go to bed, you're going to feel relief of that sleepiness, right? And the thing about sleepiness really comes from different reasons, right? It may be because you, again, had insufficient sleep, so you didn't get enough hours of sleep. It may be that the quality of your sleep is poor, either because you have some underlying medical condition, or you're on medications, or you're taking, substances like caffeine or alcohol, and that's disrupting your sleep. So what ends up happening is, because your sleep at night was not of the optimal quality, you're going to feel sleepy during the day. Another reason why you might feel sleepy naturally during the day is really part of what regulates what we call our sleep-wake cycle, right? So when you wake up in the morning, you find out you're not sleepy, right? Typically, right? If you've had a good night of sleep. But over the course of the day, our brain produces a substance called adenosine. And what this is it literally increases our desire and our need for sleep. So when you combine that in the evening, right, your sleep pressure is high, you're going to feel sleepy, with the sleep hormone, which is called melatonin, that's released in the evening when it's dark, then sleep just comes naturally. You're ready for bed, right? So that's sleepiness. Now, how do you treat sleepiness? You address insufficient sleep, so you try to get to bed, right? Or you address poor quality sleep, so addressing any medical conditions, making sure that you're addressing any sleep disruptors, which is what we do in the Restful Sleep MD program. We figure out why you're either sleepy or why your sleep is getting disrupted, and we tackle those things, right? And so getting good quality and good quantity sleep will help cure sleepiness. The next is tiredness, right? You might be hearing this for the first time, but they're actually not the same thing, because you might feel tired, but you may not be sleepy. What does that look like? You're exhausted. You feel just so beat, right? You're like, oh my gosh, I am so drained right now. But you get into bed and you don't necessarily fall asleep. Now, many times it occurs concurrently, meaning that it occurs together, but not all the time. And there are times when you might actually sleep, but still wake up feeling tired. So that's something that I want to just draw your attention to. So again, it might be completely separate. It might occur concurrently. They're two different things. And tiredness is caused by various things, like physical exertion, right? Like, you just had a very heavy, intense workout, or you had a very hard day at work, or you had a very hard test, or you had a presentation, or you're stressed for some reason or the other. Sometimes if you have a lot of anxiety, you may just feel very drained and tired all the time. And you might feel tired because of several medical conditions, including sleep issues. So again, that's where the relationship kind of comes in. But the normal or the typical symptoms you have when you're tired is you may feel exhausted, you may feel drained, you may lack energy, you may lack motivation. And what can happen is you may notice that it's harder for you to concentrate. It's harder for you to engage in physical activities. You may just want to be by yourself. You may just want to rest, right? So those are things that will help you know that you're actually tired. And it may not necessarily mean that you're sleepy. And then how do we improve tiredness? You improve tiredness by rest, by relaxation, and also by proper sleep. So you can see that there are three different things. So rest may not necessarily mean that you're sleeping. Rest may mean that you're just taking that break off to just be. And there are different types of rest. There's physical rest, right, which is the not typical, like getting enough sleep. There's emotional rest. There's social rest. There's cognitive rest. There's sensory rest. So all those things that may be causing a lot of inputs into your body, into your brain, you may need to take a break from that. And that may be a kind of rest, right? So those are ways. And then, of course, getting enough sleep, addressing any underlying conditions is really important when we're dealing with tiredness. So that was sleepiness, tiredness, now fatigue. Fatigue is a very broad term. Again, I hear it, and when people say they have fatigue, I pay a lot more attention because sometimes this may actually be suggestive of a serious medical condition. But it's a really broad term. And what it does, what it describes is a general sense of exhaustion. You just feel drained, a general sense of lack of energy, of feeling mentally or physically depleted. And now you may feel fatigue when you're really, really tired. But again, they can actually differ. And really the way that I tend to describe it to my clients is when you're tired, you might rest, you might relax, you'll take a break, you get some sleep, and you feel better. But fatigue lingers even after you've gotten enough sleep or enough rest. Fatigue just still tends to come in. And what are the different causes? Again, it could be physical exhaustion. It could be the same things that cause tiredness, or it could be prolonged or chronic mental or physical stress. And it could be certain illnesses. It could be, things like flu, like we had COVID pandemic, and a lot of people had a lot of fatigue even after the typical symptoms, like the long COVID is what we call it. It could be related to being on certain medications or lifestyle factors, right? So there are many things that can contribute to fatigue. Now, I want to tell you that sleep will help in all of this. Sleep will help your sleepiness. Sleep will help your tiredness. Sleep may help your fatigue, but many times you may need to address some more issues. Now, to throw even more at you, there's an entity called chronic fatigue syndrome. Now, this is a really complex and very debilitating medical condition where you have extreme exhaustion. You don't just have fatigue, you have fatigue plus, right? So you have extreme fatigue and exhaustion, and it is not relieved by rest. It doesn't improve with sleep or anything like that. The issue with chronic fatigue syndrome is that usually you can't necessarily pinpoint what the underlying medical condition is. And many times we think it's just a combination of factors. And usually what is much so debilitating is that it is severe enough that it affects your function. It affects your ability to show up at work. It affects daily activity, performance. And really, a lot of people just have a hard time just really moving. And there are many things that can be affected when you have chronic fatigue syndrome, or CFS. One of those things is sleep. Many times people with chronic fatigue syndrome talk about having unrefreshing or poor quality sleep. Sometimes they have insomnia, sometimes they have excessive daytime sleepiness. So you can see that this is really confusing because I told you that sleep can help if you have fatigue, but in chronic fatigue syndrome, it actually contributes to poor sleep. So it's almost like a bi-directional relationship. Another thing that can be affected when you have chronic fatigue syndrome is difficulties with concentration. You feel like you're living in a constant fog. You may have impaired memory. You may have, that what they call that chronic brain fog that can occur with chronic fatigue syndrome. Sometimes with chronic fatigue syndrome, you may have muscle pains and aches, almost like a flu-like illness. You might have headache, myalgia, or muscle pain. Again, the cause is not clear. We feel like it may be a combination of things: genetic factors, environmental factors, some immune factors. We're still kind of trying to figure it out, but it is extremely debilitating. And it turns out that it is quite common in women as well. So if you're someone who has worked on all your sleep habits, you've tried to tackle sleepiness, you've tried to work on, eliminating causes of tiredness, and you still find that you're exhausted and depleted all the time, I definitely recommend that you see your physician, because you may need blood work, you may need some testing done. We may need to really see what exactly is going on. Now, how do we move forward with sleepiness, with tiredness, or with chronic fatigue syndrome? Regardless of what that is, what I usually will recommend is grab the low-hanging fruit. Start from where you are. Start to work on your sleep. Start to combat sleepiness by prioritizing sleep, right? Make sleep a priority. Again, it is something that you have access to, right? So even before you start, I mean, of course, for any reason you want to go to your doctor and talk to them, but this is a place to get started, right? Work on the quality, work on the quantity, make sure that you're consistent with your sleep time and your wake up time. Make sure that you have a consistent bedtime routine. Aim for adequate quantity of sleep, which is anywhere from 7 to 9 hours every night, depending on the age. Avoid things like caffeine or alcohol, because those can break up and really disrupt your sleep as well. Spend time outdoors. Let the light be your friend. Earlier in the day, in the evening, you want to avoid bright light, right? So you want to make sure that you're doing all that. You're exercising regularly. Exercise helps improve the sleep quality we have. It actually can help with that tiredness and just that feeling you may have where you just feel so unmotivated. So exercise is really, really helpful. And then most importantly, if you're noticing that the symptoms have been persistent, despite trying to address, the sleep habits and things like that, then you need to get in touch with a sleep specialist. You need to get in touch with your physician so that they can tell you the next steps to take. And that's where I come in. So if you're a woman out there who is struggling with this, you feel today you're sleepy, tomorrow you're tired, and then you're like fatigued, and you're just not sure what else to do, I help you figure out what your sleep disruptors are. I help you figure out what the cause of your sleep issues are. And then we get you sleeping well so that you are going to bed at the right time. You're sleeping through the night with no issues at all. You have your sleep confidence back so that you can wake up feeling refreshed, feeling energetic. Who doesn't want that, right? So the best way to start is connect with me, get on a call with me. Let's talk about this. Let's see what's going on. If you have kids that are up all night, of course you're going to be tired. Of course you're going to be sleepy. So that's also something that we would work on together. We really do approach this from a very personalized perspective. So get in touch with me, restfulsleepmd.com, and book a call. Let's talk. Let's get to the bottom of this. So I hope this has been fun to listen to. I hope this has been informative for you. Let me know in the comments. Reach out to me, Dr. Brown at restfulsleepmd.com. Let me know how it's connecting with you. You could also follow me on social media at the Restful Sleep MD, because I really want to know that, this is impacting your life. This is improving your quality of your life. This is helping you be the best version of yourself. And like this video, share it, subscribe to my channel. Connect with people in your life who you think will benefit from this. This will help me get the word out there. Until next time, I hope you rest well.